Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to unpack complex ideas, distill them into something actionable, really helping you navigate your professional world with a bit more clarity. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating exploration into the power of purpose, that core why that drives us. It's a concept that resonates deeply everywhere, but, well, arguably nowhere more critically than within the medical field. We're going to explore why some individuals, and indeed organizations, in healthcare truly inspire, build that deep trust and loyalty while others, well, they might just motivate for short term gains, maybe losing their way a bit. This is particularly relevant for you, our mid to senior medical professionals, constantly striving for excellence, for innovation, and that unwavering patient trust in, let's face it, an ever evolving and demanding landscape. Joining me for this conversation is a true luminary in his field, Professor Moimam. Professor, it's a real pleasure to have your expertise guiding us through these, well, quite profound ideas.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. And yes, discussing how these principles can foster stronger leadership, more impactful innovation, and ultimately better patient outcomes in medicine. It's crucial. The why behind what we do in healthcare is, I'd argue, the most important question we can ask ourselves. Really, it's the foundation.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, our mission today is to unpack this powerful framework, one that really challenges conventional thinking about success, leadership, motivation, particularly within healthcare. We'll explore why understanding your fundamental purpose, your why, isn't just, good organizational practice, but truly essential. Essential for cultivating loyalty, driving authentic innovation, and building those enduring institutions, especially in medicine. Let's start with the cornerstone, shall we? This idea of the golden circle, three concentric rings. Why, how, and what. Now, typically, most organizations, and often individuals too, they communicate from the outside in. They start with what they do, maybe then how, but rarely articulate the why. Professor, could you perhaps break down this framework for us? And crucially, how shifting that order, starting with why, can profoundly impact medical practice and leadership?
Indeed. It's a remarkably simple model, but its implications are quite profound. The core idea is that every organization, every individual, inherently knows what they do.
Hmm.
In healthcare, that's usually straightforward. A hospital knows it provides A&E services, surgery clinics. A pharmaceutical company knows it makes and sells drugs. These are the tangible outputs, easy to define.
Right, the services, the product.
Exactly. The what's. Now, some organizations and some professionals also know how they do it. This gets into their unique methods, their protocols, perhaps their commitment to evidence-based practice. A top research institution might detail its rigorous methodologies. A surgical team might focus on its safety protocols, its unique collaborative approach. That's the how. The processes, the values in action.
Okay, so the distinctive way they operate.
Precisely. But here's the crux. Very few truly understand why they do what they do. And I don't mean profit or hitting targets, those are results. I mean the purpose, the cause, the fundamental belief, the reason they get out of bed in the morning. For a medic or a hospital, the why could be profound. To alleviate suffering, to advance human health, to ensure equitable care, maybe to push the boundaries of science. It's the core belief.
That deep-seated reason for being.
Exactly. And the framework argues that inspired leadership, be it clinical, administrative, research always starts by articulating that why, making it crystal clear. Once that purpose is clear, understood, shared, it then naturally informs the how. The processes, values, principles designed specifically to bring that why to life. So if the why is equitable access, the how might involve interdisciplinary teams, truly patient-centered models, community outreach, specific actions born from purpose.
So the how becomes the purposeful method.
Correct. Only then does the what, the specific treatments, the research papers, the devices, become a meaningful manifestation of that deeper purpose. Without that strong why, the what is just, well, a commodity, another service, another drug. It lacks that deeper value, that resonance.
That distinctiveness.
Precisely. And in healthcare, this is critical. Without a clear why, even your cutting-edge research or compassionate nursing can seem interchangeable. It can subtly lead to focusing just on cost or convenience, eroding trust. It's surprising how often even top institutions fall into this trap, perhaps unintentionally.
That's a really crucial point. So for a busy consultant juggling clinics or a hospital administrator dealing with budgets and waiting lists, this isn't just abstract theory, is it? It's about grounding every decision, pathway design, resource allocation, research priorities in that clear, compelling purpose, making every action meaningful.
Absolutely. It ensures everyone, from the porter to the professor, understands why things are done a certain way. It gives meaning to the daily grind.
Okay, so our discussion now moves towards, well, quite a critical distinction. The difference between relying on short-term manipulations versus genuine inspiration to engage people. And in medicine, where trust is just paramount, this feels incredibly important. Professor, how does this idea of manipulation, perhaps even unintentionally, show up in healthcare? And how does that compare to the loyalty you get from real inspiration?
This is a profoundly important distinction, especially given the vulnerability of patients and the trust they place in us. Manipulation in this sense refers to tactics that drive short-term actions. Think incentives, promotions, maybe leveraging fear or peer pressure. It's about getting someone to do something now, rather than building a lasting relationship based on shared values.
Like using discounts or maybe creating a sense of urgency.
Exactly. Yeah. In the commercial world, it's obvious: price drops, limited time offers, fear of missing out. In healthcare, it can be subtler, perhaps driven by commercial pressures or targets. For instance, a private clinic might offer a discount on an elective procedure to boost numbers quickly. That's using price as a short-term lever. Or consider pharmaceutical marketing. Sometimes it might overemphasize worst-case scenarios without a fully balanced picture of risks and alternatives, subtly playing on fear.
Right, focusing on avoiding the negative outcome.
Even appealing just to peer pressure, all the leading specialists are using this new scanner, can be a form of manipulation if it bypasses genuine belief based on evidence and purpose. A really stark example, which brought this into the public eye, was the EpiPen situation with Milan NV.
Yes, I remember that. Huge price increases.
Exactly. Back in 2016, the price had shot up dramatically, from under $50 a few years earlier to over $280. It's a life-saving device for severe allergies, and there wasn't much competition. So Milan could raise prices without immediately losing customers. They had a captive market, essentially.
And the response was criticism, huge public outcry.
Immense pressure, yes. They eventually offered discount coupons, but even that can be seen as a manipulative tactic. Not everyone can access or use them, so some still pay the full price. The core issue was deeply unsettling. Was their why truly about preventing life-threatening reactions affordably? Or had profit become the primary driver, overriding that purpose?
Certainly looks like the latter.
A demonstrably damaged trust. It exposed them as being driven by metrics, by profit, rather than a patient-centric why. A classic case of the life-saving product becoming disconnected from a noble purpose. It erodes faith, not just in one company, but potentially in the sector.
That is a powerful example. The what completely divorced from the why, leading to that massive loss of trust. But in healthcare, the financial pressures are immense. Isn't there always a tension between purpose and just surviving, paying the bills? How does a genuinely purpose-driven hospital or practice practically resist those manipulative tactics when facing budget cuts or fierce competition?
That's precisely the challenge, and is where the strength of a clear why really comes into play. When a medical institution, or even a department, clearly articulates and it consistently embodies a genuine purpose, let's say, patient well-being above all, it inspires deep trust. Patients, and importantly healthcare professionals themselves, are drawn to organizations whose values align with their own core beliefs. It creates a kind of shared identity.
A sense of belonging.
Exactly. This shared purpose acts like a magnet. It fosters profound loyalty, even if a competitor offers slightly lower costs or maybe more convenient appointment times. Because belonging, trust, these are powerful emotional drivers. They engage the limbic brain, the part responsible for feelings, intuition, decision-making, which we can maybe talk more about.
Oh, yes, the biology of it.
When patients feel an institution genuinely cares about them, beyond just the technical procedure, that emotional connection creates a bond that simple transactions can't match. And for staff, too. Working for an organization with an authentic purpose provides meaning. It helps them navigate the tough times, the pressures. It builds resilience. That's the foundation of real loyalty, not just fleeting compliance.
It's fascinating how this framework digs into the biology of our decisions. This idea that the why and how appeal to the limbic brain emotions, intuition, while the what speaks to the neocortex rational thought, facts. Professor, how does understanding this neurological distinction actually help medical professionals communicate better with patients or even when inspiring their own teams?
It's profoundly relevant, really, to every single interaction in healthcare. The framework points out that the limbic brain drives our gut decisions, that feeling of something being right or wrong, even if we can't quite articulate why. When patients choose a doctor or a hospital or agree to a major treatment, yes, facts and figures are important. They appeal to the neocortex, the logical part.
The rational brain.
Exactly. But often, it's that underlying emotional trust, that sense of alignment with the why of the professional or institution, that truly seals the decision. It's that gut feeling. So if a clinician communicates only with data, or if an institution seems to operate without a clear, compassionate why, it can trigger a sense of distrust at that deeper limbic level.
Even if everything technically checks out.
Yes, the patient might not know why they feel uneasy, but their gut is telling them something's off. The procedure, the facility might be rationally understood. But if the why, the genuine care, the belief in their well-being doesn't connect emotionally, then real trust is hard to build. They might agree, but without full confidence.
So how does a clinician bridge that gap in practice?
Well, take explaining a complex treatment, say in oncology. Just presenting statistics on success rates and side effects, while legally necessary, isn't enough for true connection. It's also about acknowledging the patient's fears, their hopes, the impact on their life, their family. That's connecting to their why for considering treatment. It engages their limbic brain.
Showing empathy, basically.
Precisely. By empathizing and explaining the purpose behind this treatment choice for them, you build that foundation of trust. Then the facts land differently, they're received more openly. And it's the same for healthcare teams, appealing to their shared purpose, saving lives, advancing knowledge, easing suffering that's far more motivating than just hitting targets or managing budget.
Because it taps into why they went into medicine in the first place.
Exactly. Metrics are necessary what and how markers, but the why fuels intrinsic motivation. It fosters commitment, resilience, collaboration, absolutely vital in demanding clinical environments. It's the difference between having a job and feeling a calling. It keeps teams strong, especially in a crisis.
So it's about ensuring the logical arguments, the evidence, are always underpinned by that crucial emotional connection, whether it's with a patient, a colleague, or a whole department. A powerful synergy. And that integration of, well, heart and head sounds like the foundation not just for trust, but also for true innovation in medicine. The framework suggests that focusing on purpose drives real breakthroughs, not just small improvements. We see constant innovation in medicine, new drugs, devices, care models. How does a why-driven approach specifically foster that genuine, maybe paradigm-shifting innovation? How does it differ from just tweaking what already exists?
That's a fundamental point. The idea is that the most innovative organizations don't just respond to what customers say they want now. They fulfill their purpose by offering things customers later realize they desperately needed but didn't even know to ask for. They create new possibilities by addressing a deeper why. An organization without that strong why is more likely just to polish existing products, compete on features, react to rivals.
So reactive versus visionary innovation.
In essence, yes. Consider Concorde. Its purpose was basically make planes faster. It achieved that, technologically brilliant. But it failed to transform transport broadly because it was incredibly expensive, inaccessible. It focused on the what speed without a deeper why about improving transport for more people.
Right. A niche solution.
Compare that to, say, the vision for Hyperloop. The why there is broader, making transport easier, faster, more efficient, maybe greener for a wider population. It aims to change the whole paradigm, driven by a bigger purpose than just speed.
Okay, I see the distinction. How does that apply in medicine?
It translates directly. Is our institutional why just to produce slightly better versions of existing drugs? Or to compete on the number of procedures performed? Doing more of the same, perhaps slightly more efficiently? Or is it something more ambitious? To fundamentally change how we deliver care? To prevent diseases we currently just manage? To democratize access to life-saving treatments?
Challenging the status quo based on purpose.
Exactly. True medical innovation often stems from that. Think about personalized medicine, tailoring treatments to individual genetics.
Yeah.
That's not just about better drugs. It's driven by a why focused on optimizing outcomes for each patient, reducing harm. Or integrated community care models focusing on prevention, holistic support outside hospitals. That comes from a why that's broader than just treating sickness episodically. It's about rethinking the whole system for better health.
So fundamental shifts driven by a purpose beyond just metrics or outdoing the hospital down the road.
Precisely. It's foresight driven by purpose, not just reaction driven by competition. It's the difference between, building a slightly faster horse-drawn carriage and inventing the car.
A very clear analogy. And this naturally leads us to thinking about the internal culture needed to support this. The framework highlights that inspiring leaders grow trust, cultivate a purposeful culture, and crucially, they hire people who resonate with that purpose. This feels incredibly important in healthcare given the pressures teams face: burnout, moral injury. What are the practical ways to build this kind of purposeful culture in a hospital or a research lab, especially when things are tough?
Well, the insight is that leaders who truly inspire don't just talk about the purpose, they live it. In their decisions, their interactions, their priorities, they embody the why. And they actively cultivate a culture that values actions taken to fulfill that purpose. It's not just about setting targets the what, it's about presenting challenges, often complex ones, and empowering teams to find solutions, inviting participation in the how because the why is shared.
Giving people autonomy within the purpose.
Exactly. Look at the early days of Nike. Phil Knight's first employees trusted his vision so much they took huge risks, left secure jobs, even deferred paychecks during lean times. Why? Because they believed in the why, not just making shoes, but innovation, contributing through sport. That belief fueled extraordinary commitment, enabling big, risky moves like manufacturing their own shoes. It was more than just a job.
So how does a hospital CEO or a department head achieve that?
In healthcare, it starts with recruitment, actively seeking staff doctors, nurses, support staff who genuinely connect with the institution's core mission. If your why is compassionate care, you look for that empathy, that drive in interviews. If it's pioneering research, you find scientists passionate about discovery and collaboration. You ask questions that probe their why.
Hiring for purpose, not just skills.
Both are needed. But purpose is key for cultural fit and long-term motivation. And it goes beyond hiring. It's about fostering an environment where staff feel empowered to solve patient problems, not just tick boxes or hit administrative targets. When everyone, from the most junior trainee to the most senior consultant, understands and believes in the collective why, it amplifies the message. You get higher morale, better collaboration, and ultimately, superior patient care. Even when the pressure is immense. The material also mentions transparency and consistent messaging, like at Facebook during its growth. That's vital in large hospital groups too, keeping everyone aligned across different sites and teams. Consistency and transparency build that bedrock of shared purpose.
It really sounds like it weaves through everything, from hiring to daily problem solving. It's about attracting those who share the vision, which links to another interesting point. Focusing on early adopters rather than trying to appeal to everyone immediately. That might seem counterintuitive. How does this apply in medicine? Who are the early adopters for, say, a new clinic, a medical device, or a public health campaign?
Yes, it's a fascinating strategy and often overlooked in healthcare planning. Early adopters are that minority, maybe 10–15% of the population, who are actively seeking innovation. They're driven by belief and purpose, less by price or convenience. They want something new, something better, something that aligns with their values.
So not the mainstream majority, initially?
Not initially. In a medical context, early adopters could be patients who are highly proactive about their health. They research new treatments, participate in trials, explore preventative strategies. They're engaged, informed, and willing to try things that align with their health goals. Think about patients seeking out functional medicine or cutting-edge therapies before they become widely available.
Right, the really motivated patients.
But it's not just patients. It could also be opinion-leading clinicians. Those doctors or researchers who are keen to integrate new therapies, devices, or care models early on. They're often research active, open to new paradigms, and their success influences their peers.
The pioneers within the profession.
Exactly. They might be the first surgeon to master a robotic technique, the first GP to implement a new digital health tool, the first department to pilot a radically different care pathway. They champion change when it aligns with their why, better outcomes, advancing knowledge. The discussion uses the example of the luxury brand Coach. They struggled when they tried to broaden their appeal too much, diluting their brand and losing their loyal high-end customers who valued their original why of exclusivity and quality.
So trying to be everything to everyone backfired.
Precisely. In healthcare, a specialist clinic could face the same risk. If it tries to offer every possible service to attract volume, it might dilute its unique expertise and lose the trust of patients and referrers who sought its focused purpose. So building strong relationships with specific patient advocacy groups, maybe for rare diseases, or cultivating ties within specific medical subspecialty communities, these groups often represent the early adopters.
Because they share a very specific, deep why.
Yes. By focusing on them, speaking their language, addressing their specific needs and beliefs, an organization can build a highly loyal base. This base then amplifies the organization's unique why, distinguishing it from more generalized providers. It's about depth and focus, not just breadth, building a strong reputation based on purpose.
That makes perfect sense. Building from a strong core of believers. And speaking of leadership again, the framework describes this often successful pairing: a visionary leader focused on the why and a planning leader focused on the how. How does this dynamic typically play out in a complex medical hierarchy, say within a hospital trust or a research group? And why is that duality so effective?
It's a very common and effective structure, yes.
Mm.
You see it frequently in healthcare because the challenges are so complex, requiring both inspiration and meticulous execution. Often, you'll have a visionary leader, maybe the chief medical officer or the head of research, who inspires everyone with the grand purpose, the why. They articulate the future vision, perhaps transforming patient care or conquering a disease. They paint the picture, generate enthusiasm, foster belief. They set the destination.
The dreamer in a positive sense.
Exactly. Then you have the planning leader, the operational counterpart, often a chief operating officer, a hospital manager, or maybe a lead lab manager in research. They bring the energy, the structure, the strategic thinking to make the vision happen. They design the pathways, optimize resources, manage budgets, establish the protocol, the practical how to get to the destination set by the visionary. They translate the why into concrete, actionable steps and build the necessary infrastructure.
The doer who makes it real.
Precisely. And the real magic happens when the message from both leaders is consistent and aligned with the purpose felt by the employees. When that happens, the staff amplify the message internally, breaking down silos, and externally to patients and partners. Think of a major research institute aiming to cure a specific cancer. The director might be the visionary, articulating that future, the why. The head of ops or the PIs manage the grants, the trials, the daily lab work, the how. When both are aligned and transparent, the whole team, from scientists to admin staff, feels empowered. They see how their specific what contributes to the overall why. This synergy is crucial for sustained progress, preventing the vision becoming just talk and the work becoming just tasks.
A really vital partnership. Ensuring the dream meets reality, which leads to a really tough challenge. Sustaining purpose. How do you keep that original why alive when a visionary leader leaves, or when an organization grows massively? Healthcare institutions can be very old, very complex. How do they stop the purpose fading over time?
It's a critical challenge, absolutely. The framework is clear. When the visionary founder leaves or the organization gets much bigger, that focus on purpose can easily erode. It often gets replaced by a drive for market share, efficiency targets, or just profit. External pressures, like shareholders in commercial entities, can push this shift.
Focusing on metrics instead of mission.
Often, yes. In healthcare, this translates to that constant tension, balancing patient-centric goals, the why, with financial sustainability, regulations, political pressures. These can all subtly divert focus from the original mission. A charitable hospital founded on providing equitable care might feel pressured to chase more profitable private work if funding tightens, potentially compromising its core why. The what and how start to dominate the why.
So how do you prevent that drift?
Two key pillars, according to the framework. First, a really strong embedded culture that constantly reinforces the original message, right down to the most junior staff member. Everyone needs to live and breathe the why. It needs to be part of the organizational DNA.
Not just a poster on the wall.
Definitely not. Second, a robust succession plan. This isn't just about finding skilled managers. It's about ensuring future leaders genuinely understand, champion, and believe in the foundational purpose. They must be true inheritors of the why. The discussion mentions deliberately developmental organizations, places designed to foster growth aligned with purpose. They use feedback systems, goal setting, mentorship, transparency. For medical organizations, this means embedding the why into all training, mentorship, leadership development. It's about clinical skills and organizational purpose.
Integrating it systemically.
Yes. Through transparent incident reporting that reflects on purpose, not just identifies errors. Through clinical governance that constantly checks practice against the why. Through continuous professional development that reinforces the core mission. And crucially, these systems must be tailored to the specific organization, genuinely support its purpose, and apply equally to everyone from top to bottom. That consistent, holistic reinforcement makes the why resilient to change and pressure.
That makes sense. Embedding it so deeply it becomes unshakable. Which brings us to the final point, about reflection and competing against oneself. The framework suggests purpose-driven organizations learn from failure and focus on internal improvement, not just beating rivals. That's quite a shift from typical competitive thinking. How does this apply in medicine, and what are the implications of only competing against your past self?
This is, I think, one of the most powerful takeaways for healthcare, a field built on continuous improvement and ethical practice. The idea is simple but profound. To maintain purpose, you must constantly reflect on your original inspiration and learn deeply from failures. An organization with a clear why doesn't need to obsess about competitor metrics. It measures itself against its own potential, its own past performance. It's about an internal drive for excellence rooted in its mission.
Less looking sideways, more looking inwards and forwards.
Exactly. The CVS Pharmacies example is brilliant here. In 2014, they stopped selling cigarettes. Why? Because it was fundamentally inconsistent with their stated why of being a healthcare provider. They chose purpose over profit.
A brave move, surely impacting revenue.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Estimates were around $2 billion lost revenue that year alone, a massive short-term hit.
Yeah.
But it sent a powerful message. They were serious about their healthcare why and the outcome. Their overall sales actually increased significantly in the following years, aligning the what's, stopping cigarette sales, with their why, health, build immense public trust and ultimately strengthen their business. It showed purpose can be a competitive advantage.
Wow. Living the why paid off, literally.
It did. For medical professionals and institutions, this means embedding reflective practice. Rigorous clinical audits, yes, but also deep, honest reflection on adverse events, near misses, patient feedback not for blame, but for learning. It means striving for quality improvement within your own practice, your own department, measured against your own past performance and potential, not just against the hospital next door.
Asking how can we be better tomorrow than we were yesterday?
Precisely. Are we fulfilling our unique purpose to the best of our ability? And how do we improve based on our standards? This proactive, self-critical, purpose-driven approach fosters true excellence, deep integrity, and builds that unbreakable trust. It turns every challenge into a learning opportunity aligned with the core mission.
Professor, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the power of why. We've seen how starting with purpose isn't just, a nice idea or a business strategy, but a fundamental principle for inspiring loyalty, driving real innovation, and building resilient, ethical organizations. Hugely vital for everyone in medicine.
Indeed. Understanding and consistently articulating your why truly is a powerful catalyst, not just for organizations, but for each of us as individual professionals seeking to make a more meaningful impact in this demanding field. It gives clarity, especially when things get tough.
So for you, our listener, perhaps a moment to reflect on your own why. In your demanding, vital profession, what truly drives you? How might reconnecting with that core purpose maybe change your approach to patient care, to leading your team, maybe even to tackling the bigger healthcare challenges? What might your own CVS moment look like? If you found this deep dive insightful, please do consider rating and sharing it with colleagues. It really helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll keep starting with your why.